Good morning, everyone. Today, our group will going to discuss the components of the English curriculum. We have the four components. The component one, which is the language learning process. Component two, effective language use. Component three, making meaning through language. Component four, which is the holistic assessment. The world is now in the knowledge age, where the challenge of education is to prepare learners to deal with the challenges of the changing world. Students in this age must be prepared to complete the global economy, understand and operate complex communication and information systems, and apply higher level thinking skills to make decisions and solve problems. The Language Arts and Multiliteracies Curriculum, or the LAMC, addresses these needs. This is the rationale why mother tongue, Filipino, and English follow a unified framework which allows easy transition from acquiring and learning one language to another. Component 1 illustrates learning process that will affect acquisition and learning of language. It explains the how of language learning and therefore serves as guiding principles for language teaching. Component 2 describes knowledge and skills areas which are essential for to effective language use, understand cultures, understanding language, process and strategies, which will be developed through language arts or macro skills. Component 3 shows the interdependence and interrelationships of the macro skills of the language, which is the listening, speaking, and viewing, reading, viewing, and responding, writing, and representing. And the development of thinking skills, the critical thinking and creative thinking, and metacognition, allowing students to make meaning through the language. Component 4 explains the holistic assessment of the language arts, the literacy curriculum, which serves as feedback of its effectiveness to students, teachers, school administrators, and curriculum developers. So first, let us discuss the component 1, which is the language learning process. So first, we have the spiral progression. Skills, grammatical items, structures, and various types of text will be taught, revised, and revisited at increasing levels of difficulty and sophistication. This will allow students to progress from the foundational level to higher levels of language use. So, speaking of spiral progression, this approach in the curriculum is derived from the Brunner's spiral curriculum model. Brunner stressed that teaching should always lead a boosting cognitive development. Students will not understand the concept of teacher's plan to teach it using only the teacher's level of understanding. Curriculum should be organized in spiral manner so that the students continually builds upon what they have already learned. Brenner saw the rule of the teachers as that of translating information into a format appropriate to each child's current state of understanding. The spiral progression approach is said to be a child centered approach. Second, we have the interaction. Language learning will be situated in the context of communication, the oral and written. Activities that simulate real life situations of varying language demands, the purposes, topics, and audiences will be employed to help students interact with each other, thereby improve their socialization skills. So, why is interaction important? Social interaction helps to improve the learning strategies. Social interaction enables the learner to discover the situations that are distressing into him or her. And this thus enables one to modify his or her behaviors so as to realize positive outcomes. Also, interaction enables a student to understand other people's behaviors, and so a learner can improve his or her learning strategies by modifying his or her negative behaviors. Social interaction also enables students to increase their individual efforts so as to enhance the group grades. Social interaction usually helps to reduce the work of a teacher. Social interaction also enables the students to work out problems on their own, and this enables them to gain experience in solving future related challenges. Interaction also helps students to overcome fears associated with large crowds and also making them to be assertive. The third one we have integration. These the areas of language learning, the receptive skills, the productive skills, and grammar and vocabulary will be taught in an integrated way, together with the use of the relevant print and non-print resources to provide multiple perspectives and meaningful connections. Integration may come in different types, either implicitly or explicitly: skills, content, theme, topic, and values integration. So, integration actually refers to the exceptional students being partially taught in a mainstream classroom. So, activities are adapted so the students can fit in with their mainstream peers while learning skills that may be better practiced in a room with more appropriate peers. So, the fourth one, we have the learner centered. The learners are at the center of the teaching learning process. Teaching will be differentiated according to students' needs, abilities, and interests. Effective pedagogies will be used to engage them and to strengthen their language development. So, learner centered education actually empowers the students to take ownership of what they learn by focusing on how the new knowledge solves a problem or adds values. Instead of simply pouring information over the child's mind, the facilitator presents the students with an issue and guides the class as they build the solution. Learner-centered education allows the students to interact with their teams through discussions and group activities. Learner-centered education creates opportunities for students to teach each others. And learner-centered education helps the students develop skills that will better equip them for their professional careers. Number 5, we have the contextualization. Learning tasks and activities will be designed for learners to acquire the knowledge in an authentic and meaningful context of use. For example, lessons will be planned around learning outcomes, a theme or a type of text to help learners use related language skills, grammatical items, structures, and vocabulary appropriately in spoken and written language to suit the purpose, audience, context, and culture. Learning points will be reinforced through explicit instruction and related follow-up practice. Contextualization is defined as employing the items of the language in a meaningful and relevant context. This helps the learners to acquire new skills and knowledge. It also develops the abilities and attitudes. So learners should be motivated to learn and to take part in the learning process. Contextualization of the course's content and concepts can improve students' motivation, learning, and persistence. Construction. Making meaning is the heart of language learning and use. Learning tasks and activities will be designed for learners in such a way that they will have time to reflect on and respond to ideas and information. Learners will be provided with sufficient scaffolding so that they will be able to reach their full cognitive, affective, and psychomotor potentials and become independent learners who are good consumers and constructors of meaning. This means that learning is not just about learning that certain topic. It's about a real life experience. It's about putting what you learn in school in your everyday life. So the next one, the component 2, will be discussed by my co-reporter.
Good day, everyone. I am Anna Marie Yangurin to me, and I am tasked to discuss to you the component 2 and component 3. These are the effective language use and making meaning through language. But let us first discuss the effective language use. There are three major applications of the macro skills of the language: understanding of cultures, understanding language, and processes and strategies. They are described as the knowledge and skill areas which are essential to effective language use, demonstrated through the language macro skills. So, what is understanding cultures? Learning language through text types and literary appreciation exposes learners to different cultures of the world, including one's culture. Learners develop sociolinguistic and sociocultural understandings and apply them to their use of the language, mother tongue, Filipino, and English. What does sociolinguistic understanding and sociocultural understanding mean? Sociolinguistic understanding refers to appropriate language use. It is defined in this document as taking into account the social linguistic forms and the linguistic implication of social facts. Language is a complex social practice that reflects and reinforces shared understandings about appropriate actions, values, beliefs, and attitudes within a community. These shared understandings determine not only what is communicated and when and how it is communicated, but also who does the communicating. These collectively constitute the sociolinguistic features of language. On the other hand, sociocultural understanding, it refers to knowing about the language speaking communities. It means taking into account the non-linguistic features in the life of a society. Learners broaden their frame of reference beyond their own social and cultural experience. They gain insights into different values and belief systems and acknowledge the cultural context which underpin them. They make sense of the social fabric of the target language community. They understand that the natural and physical environment, as well as the social, economic, historical, and political environments, influence the language speaking groups and their cultural traditions. What is understanding language? Learners apply their knowledge of the system of the language to assess them, to make meaning, and to create meaning. They come to recognize patterns and rules of the language which emerge as they interact with a plethora of texts, or literary and informational, to make meaning. They apply this knowledge and understanding to create their own spoken, written, and visual texts. Differences in language systems are expressed in a variety of ways. For example, in grammatical differentiations, variations in word order, word selection, or general stylistic variation in text. By comparing the system of the language with the systems of other languages, students understand that each language is different but has identifiable patterns within its own system. The process and strategies. Learners select from a repertoire of processes and strategies by reflecting on their understanding of the way language works for a variety of purposes in a range of contexts. Which means learners deliberate on how they use language and apply different language strategies depending on their purposes, context, and audience. They use language as a way of coming to grips with new ideas, resolving difficulties, or solving problems. They use strategies such as brainstorming and discussion as a way of developing new ideas. They experiment, take risks, and make approximations with language as a way of developing their language skills. They clarify what they need to know when seeking information for particular purposes. They use keyword searches and their understanding of the convention of informational text such as tables of contents, headings, indexes, forwards, and glossaries as aids in locating information. They assess the usefulness of information for particular purposes. They treat information and ideas critically and evaluate information in terms of its reliability and accuracy. They make notes and graphic representations of informations and combine information from different sources into a coherent route by summarizing, comparing, and synthesizing. Learners reflect an ethical consideration in the use of ideas and information. They recognize the importance of attributing sources of ideas and information and of presenting or representing ideas and information in ways which are not misleading. They use quotation and sourcing conventions appropriately. They take into account the possible effects of and responses to the presentation of ideas and information. So let us move on to the component 3. Making meaning through language. Language is the major instrument in communication, oral and written, and the heart of which is the exchange of meaning. Language learning should focus on guiding students make meaning through language for different purposes on a range of topics and with a variety of audiences. Students must be able to adapt to various situations where communications demands greatly vary. The skills, grammatical items, structures, and revisited at increasing level of difficulty and sophistication. This design allows students to progress from the foundational level to higher levels of language use. The Language Arts and Multiliteracies Curriculum, or LAMC. It is composed of 5 intricately intertwined and integrated substrands. These are listening, speaking, reading, writing, and viewing that serve as building blocks for understanding and creation meaning and for effective communication across curricula. The revised curriculum reorganizes the integrated language arts curriculum according to the content standards that must be met by all students at the end of basic education. This is not inconsistent with the proposed 5 substrands of the Language Arts and Multiliteracies Curriculum, or LAMC, but fleshes out the areas that children need to learn and that teachers need to teach in greater detail. So the next slide is the matrix that presents the spread and alignment of the language and literacy domains with the 5 substrands. So as we can see the matrix together the 5 domain, the listening, the speaking, reading, writing, and viewing. So the oral language belongs to the domain listening and speaking. Phonological awareness belong to listening. Book and printed knowledge belong to reading. Alphabet knowledge belong to listening, speaking, reading, writing, and viewing. Phonics and word recognition belongs to listening, reading, and writing. Fluency belongs to speaking and reading. Spelling belongs to reading and writing. Writing and composition belongs to four domain, which is listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Grammar awareness and structure belong to four domain. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The vocabulary development belongs to five domain, which is listening, speaking, reading, writing, and viewing. So the reading comprehension and the area belong to reading, writing, and viewing. Listening comprehension belong to the domain listening, speaking. Attitudes towards language, literacy, and literature belong to five domains. And the study strategies belong to five domain. So the second one, the funneling of domain across the K-12 basic education integrated language arts curriculum. This is what I have said earlier, that this is not inconsistent with the proposed five substrand of the language arts and literacy curriculum, but fleshes out the areas that children need to learn and that teachers need to teach in greater detail. So as we can see, the table shows us of what are the domains that we need to teach the secondary level. Coherence with the basic education program goals. The K-12 language curriculum ensures that processes and products of learning actively foster and contribute to the achievement of the basic education program goals. Competence are spiraled across the curriculum and year levels. Upper level courses will focus on writing comprehension and study strategies. Content includes print and culture appropriate. And that would be all for my discussion.
Good morning everyone. Good morning guys. I'm Ralph Edward Trapa reporting on all about holistic assessment. What is holistic assessment? Holistic assessment refers to the process of using multiple sources to continually gather information on child's development, to provide feedback, to support and guide learners. It focuses on achieving quality, balance, and child centricity in school assessment system, to support decision-making and increase students' motivation and success in learning. Teachers use assessment information formatively to adjust instruction and provide students with feedback and targeted practice to move learning forward. What are the benefits of holistic assessment? One of the advantages of holistic assessment is that they can be utilized to evaluate various aspects of learner. For instance, portfolio assessment provides a multidimensional perspective of the learner. Secondly, students are actively involved in the learning process. Holistic assessment is the process of using multiple sources to gather information and provide feedback to support and guide learning. It focuses on achieving quality and balance in the assessment system to support discussion making and increase student motivation and success in learning. What is assessment? In education, the term assessment refers to the wide variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate, measure, and document academic readiness, learning progress, skills acquisition, or educational needs of students. Assessment involves the use of empirical data on students' learning to refine programs and improve students' learning. Assessment is the systematic collection, review, and use of information about educational programs undertaken for the purpose of improving students' learning and development. Assessment is an integral part of instructions as it determines whether or not the goals of education are being met. Assessment affects discussion about grades, placement, advancement, instruction needs, curriculum, and some cases, funding. Frameworks of the curriculum. Number 1. The K-12 language curriculum ensures that the process and product of learning activity fosters and contribute to the achievement of the basic educational program goals. Second, competencies are spiraled across the curriculum and your levels. Upper level courses will focus on writing, comprehension, and study strategies. Number 3. Content includes print and electronic texts that are age, context, and culture appropriate. Characteristic of assessment. The first characteristic is the proximity of actual language used and performance. This means that the activity that have authentic communicative functions and actual performance in authentic situation. Do you remember taking a class and trying to learn all the information just to pass the test? You didn't see how that material could be applicable to your own life, so your level of interest is in too deep, and the whole reason for studying was to get a good grade. Or do you remember ever thinking classes were boring and uneventful? A large number of students feel that schoolwork is uninteresting and has little, if any, relevance to their lives. While this perspective is very common, it is also the very reason for authentic learning to come into the picture. You see, educators notice that the gap between the students learn in the class and its application to their lives. They also knew that because of this disconnect, there was less interest in the class materials and less of an impact on the students. Community function refers to the purpose of gestural, vocal, and verbal acts intended to convey information to others. Some communicative function includes commenting, requesting, protesting, directing attention, showing, and rejecting. The second characteristic of assessment is the holistic view of language. Holistic view of language, based on the notion that the interrelationship among the various aspects of language such as phonology, grammar, and vocabulary among others cannot be ignored. Assessment approach should be used for communication and self-expression. A holistic approach to language sees it as a whole, which is not divisible in any meaningful way. For teaching, this contrasts with an atomistic approach to language, which attempts to analyze language into parts, such as grammatical structure or functional exponent, which can later become the content of a syllabus. A holistic approach would focus on everything that learners need to know to communicate effectively. For example, young learners have a set of daily tasks in the classroom, including cleaning the board and collecting materials. This is all done in the target language. In the classroom, content-based instruction, language across the curriculum, the cognitive academic language, learning approaches, and topic-based syllabus take a holistic approach by using a framework of meaningful context. That's all for the holistic assessment. I hope you learned something. That's all. Thank you.